Good afternoon, Cross Timbers. Today is Wednesday, October 16th, 2013. This is Texan TV News from the Tarleton State University campus in Stephenville, Texas, and I am Sara Heard. In today's headlines, SWAT hosts Hump Day-a-Palooza. Safety violations at the Comanche Peak Nuclear Power Plant in Glen Rose. A Dyess Air Force Base airman is facing charges of child neglect in a toddler's death. A Florida teen commits suicide after being bullied. A high-ranking Al-Qaeda member is in custody. Ford's Theater reopens due to private contributions. In sports news, Cardinals beat the Dodgers. And today's weather. In campus news, the student-wide activities team is partnering up with Tarleton's Alternative Transportation and Alcohol Education to host Hump Day-a-Palooza. The group says the event will include activities such as inflatable obstacle course, a shaving cream slide, tie-dye twister, cycle racing, and chicken bowling. Hump Day-a-Palooza will be postponed until further notice. Hump Day-a-Palooza is designed to educate students on alcohol awareness. Now for regional, state, national, international, entertainment, and sports news from the Associated Press. In regional news, an unreleased report says 2 Texas nuclear power plants each experienced more than 150 lower-level safety violations from 2000 to 2012. The data was included in a Government Accountability Office report obtained by the Associated Press. It is intended to show that safety violations at nuclear power plants vary from region to region, in part because of differing rules interpretations. The West region, which includes Texas, had 2.5 times the Southeast's rate of lower-level violations per reactor. The Comanche Peak plant in Glen Rose had 2 higher-level violations in addition to its 157 lower-level violations. The South Texas Project plant in Wadsworth had 151 lower-level violations and no higher-level violations. Lower-level violations pose very low risk. High-level violations range from low to high safety significance. In state news, a military judge has refused to change the venue of the court-martial for a Dyess Air Force Base airman facing charges of neglecting a toddler who died. The Abilene Reporter News reports that on Tuesday, the trial's first day, Judge Colonel Donald Eller refused the motion by the defense of Christopher Perez. Perez is charged with negligence of duty, child endangerment, and adultery. The judge is expected to rule today on a motion to suppress evidence. Perez's defense questioned whether proper procedure was followed by the Abilene Police Department of the Air Force Office of Special Investigations when they questioned him. While the police are obtained to read Miranda rights to people who are arrested, different rules apply for military personnel. At the time of the alleged offense, Perez lived with Tiffany Klepeek, the wife of Airman Thomas Klepeek. Tiffany Klepeek has said her husband's deployment made her too stressed to take care of their 3 children, which led to the death of her 22-month-old daughter, Tamron, from malnourishment and dehydration in August 2012. Upon his return, Thomas Klepeek filed for divorce. Perez's attorneys have said he had little contact with the children and that he did not want to interfere with the way they were being raised. In national news, a 12-year-old Florida teen, Rebecca Sedgwick, committed suicide last month after being bullied and tormented by two other teens. One of her tormentors continued to make comments about Sedgwick online and even bragged about the bullying. The two girls who were primarily responsible have been arrested and charged with stalking. Florida police said that Rebecca was being bullied by 15 girls before she killed herself on September 9th. Rebecca Sedgwick is one of at least a dozen suicides connected to cyberbullying reported in the last 3 years. Both girls have been charged as juveniles with third-degree felony aggravated stalking. Neither girl is recorded of previous criminal activity, and it's not clear how much time either of them could be facing.
But the reason we rushed these arrests quicker than we wanted to is because of this post. Yes, I bullied Rebecca, and she killed herself, but I don't give a, and you can add the last word yourself. This all began during 2012, during the school year. We know on one occasion Rebecca ran away from home in November. We know in December of 12, Tricia, who is Rebecca's mother, noticed that Rebecca had cuts on her wrist. So as a result of that, Rebecca said she was cutting herself because she was being bullied and she was under a lot of stress. There were statements such as, you should drink bleach and die. Nobody likes you. I don't like you. Nobody likes you. And about 2 o'clock in the morning on the 10th of September, that's when one of our sergeants and one of our detectives found Rebecca at the base of an abandoned cement plant where she'd obviously jumped to her death. Rebecca's mother went, I believe, above and beyond to create interventions. There were several interventions created for Rebecca. The one issue that Rebecca's mom said to us is, I just didn't want to have her not like me, so I wanted to give her access to her cell phone so she could talk to her friends. And as a result, the bullies now cyberbullied her because she was no longer at school for them to get to her face to face.
In international news, an alleged Al-Qaeda member that was taken off the streets in Libya and interrogated for a week aboard an American warship has pled not guilty to bombing-related charges. The alleged Al-Qaeda member became the latest alleged terrorist to face civilian prosecution in a federal court in New York. The alleged terrorist had come to court from a New York hospital where he was treated for hepatitis C and swollen limbs. The 49-year-old Libyan was captured by American commandos during a military raid in the North African country. He was arraigned more than a decade ago for the twin 1998 bombings in the U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, killing 224 people, which included a dozen Americans. If he is convicted, he could get life behind bars. He is accused of helping plan and conduct surveillance for the attacks.
Abu Anas al-Libi, a Libyan charged in the deadly 1998 al-Qaeda bombings of 2 U.S. embassies in Africa, has pleaded not guilty to terrorism charges. Al-Libi is accused of helping plan and conduct surveillance of U.S. embassies in Nairobi, Kenya, and Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. The bombings killed 224 people. including a dozen Americans.
This is an interesting case, not just because of the prosecution for the embassy bombings, but because of the prosecution, because of the information he may have about al-Qaeda since 2001.
Al-Libi's prosecution in a federal court in New York continues a policy of bringing al-Qaeda suspects to civilian courts rather than military tribunals.
Every single trial of a high-value detainee who is charged with a lethal attack on individuals, including U.S. citizens, that is tried in federal court successfully opens the door wider for other of the suspects at Guantanamo, including even the 9/11 detainees, to be able to come to the United States.
Al-Libi's plea comes just 10 days after he was captured in a U.S. military raid in Libya and interrogated aboard a U.S. Navy warship. Warren Levinson, Associated Press, New York.
In entertainment news from the Associated Press, the historic Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. will reopen its doors and resume performances today, using private funding even though the government shutdown has continued into a third week. Theater officials announced Tuesday that the National Historic Site and Performance Space will reopen today. Theater trustee Ronald Perlman and chairman and CEO of McAndrews and Forbes Holding Incorporated donated $25,000 in emergency funding to pay for the theater's operations for the next 8 days. Ford's Theater, where President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, is a National Park Service site. A private group runs the theater's programming. The Ford's Theater Society has been losing about $100,000 in revenue per week since the theater went dark at the start of the highly anticipated Laramie Project production due to the government shutdown, said spokeswoman Lauren B.A. The show will run through October 27th, but will not be extended because the actors have other commitments. An agreement was made to reopen Ford's Theater after several states agreed to provide funding to reopen national parks in other areas. The National Park Service agreed to a similar agreement for the theater. In sports news, the St. Louis Cardinals beat the Los Angeles Dodgers last night 4-2. This win puts the Cardinals in a 3-1 lead over the Dodgers in the NL Championship Series. Matt Holliday and pinch hitter Shane Robinson connected for the first home runs in the series. Holliday hit a 2-run shot off of Ricky Nolasco and an estimated 426 feet into left field, topping a 3-run third that gave the Cardinals a 3-0 lead. Matt Carpenter came around on Holliday's homer after there were none in the first 3 games for the first time in NLCS history. Robinson's home run bounced off the top of the wall in left field on a 1-0 pitch from J.P. Hallwell. With 1 out in the 7th, extending the Cardinals' lead to 4-2. The Dodgers stuck with Nolasco as their starter, even though he hadn't pitched since September 29th. Nolasco was passed over for his scheduled assignment in Game 4 of the division series when the Dodgers chose to use ace Clayton Kershaw on 3 days rest for the first time in his career. Game 5 is this afternoon at Dodger Stadium, with the Cardinals' 1 win from the World Series. Zach Greinke is set to start for the Dodgers against Joe Kelly. According to the Weather Channel, today's weather forecast will be cloudy with showers, a high of 62 with an 80% chance of rain. This has been a production of Texan TV News, a product of the Texan News Service from the Tarleton State University campus in Stephenville, Texas. You can follow the Texan News Service on Facebook and Twitter and check out our website at www.texannews.net for all your latest local, state, national, and international news, as well as all your entertainment and sports news. Today's broadcast was produced by Brett Heileman and Katie Tompkins. Have a wonderful day, Tarleton Texans.